If you remember when we were playing Worlds against it was Weibo Gaming, where we had a really big late game clutch. It was a 40-minute banger, and also against DK, it was a very very late game scenario. And this year coming in, we were like, okay, mid game, let's focus on mid game, So yeah.
Hey guys, this is Ashi Kang of Horizon Esports, and I'm joined by BrokenBlade, the top laner of G2. After G2
Hello.
does, after G2 does finish its Week 2 schedule for 2024 LEC Spring Season. Hey BD, yeah, there was a bit of a difficult defeat against Vitality just now. How are you doing? How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling pretty bad. It was a very frustrating way to play the game. We felt like we never really fought. We gave them everything. Our comp was very passive, but even though it was very passive, I feel like we didn't take anything. It was just a very frustrating game to play. I ended up being 0-4 very fast, even though I felt like I was doing so good in like in terms of pressure or laning. Um, yeah, I mean, it was just a very sad game. It's definitely not our best performance. I hope this will be the worst performance of the year, to be fair. It quite looked like it. Um, so obviously, I'm very, very sad about how we played today, um, which is quite surprising given how well we played yesterday.
You mentioned that it almost felt like G2 did nothing, and you definitely aren't the happiest about the performance that G2 showed today. Can you elaborate just a bit more in which ways you felt like G2 was lacking? Could be decisiveness, could be communication, could be cross-map plays, could be many different things.
I think it was decisiveness. Basically, I think we didn't pull the trigger fast enough in certain scenarios. They had champions like Corki and Senna and Maokai, and if you just wait too long, it was hard, and it was also hard to do something. At some point, we came up with Sona flashing on Corki on mid lane, and then it also didn't work out. Um, yeah, maybe their comp was strong against ours. I'm not sure. I definitely think we didn't play perfect League of Legends in this game, which happens sometimes. It does happen. It's beginning of the year. We will have to take everything we can from this and do better. It's just all we can do. It's all we have to do. Uh, um, After such a frustrating loss. Yeah, it was very frustrating to play this.
I know that a lot of journalists as well as the broadcast has been bringing this up, so I'll bring it up. A lot of people have been asking questions around the current mid game that G2 has been showing. Of course, there are moments where G2 does pull up, let's say, a great clutch or cross map or team fight and able to bring some of the games. And often you see a pattern where G2 is able to come back from goal deficit. But we have already built some really high expectation on this G2 roster from previous year, and yeah, the mid game sometimes does seem a bit shaky. I'm just gonna be really honest here. Yeah.
Um,
Where does it
I
come from?
mean,
Because it is the same roster, isn't it?
yeah, you're right. I think this year, in the beginning of the year,
Mm.
right before the year started, when we had boot camp, with the addition of Duffman, we were focusing a lot about waves. Because the waves in League of Legends, they are always there. You can always play around the wave, right?
Mm.
And once there is a wave, and once there is no wave, the game changes. And I think last year we were winning a lot of games by individually outplaying enemies, or especially in the early game. But what's the main difference though was that when we played against Asian teams, it didn't matter if we had 2k gold, 3k gold. They would just play the map better and then somehow catch us off guard or get better trades. And I think that's what we want to do. We want to be better than just playing well, like clicking the mouse well. We want to click it correctly, not against a certain champion, but just clicking the mouse basically, um, to the right positions. And we are definitely getting better at that. I can confidently say that I think we are very very good at creating those scenarios. Um, In this last game, it was sadly not possible because we were losing both side lanes and we were not getting pushed mid. So when 3 lanes are getting pushed in, it's very hard to get an advantageous fight or scenario unless the enemy messes up. But we also put ourselves in this position, right? Like I was having a lot of pressure in lane. We got the grubs early, for example, and then when they got Herald, 2 Drakes, Corky package, 3rd Drake, it's hard to do something when you're not in a winning position. So that's why it looked really, really bad this game. It makes sense why it looks bad given the situation we're in. But again, we will need to reflect on it. Other than that, yeah, that's was mainly our focus on the mid game. And a lot of people are saying about the G2 early game and stuff like that. And it's a bit funny because we were very good in early game last year. Um, so it's really interesting also for me to be in the same team with the same players being very good in early game 1 year and then next year suddenly we're getting a lot behind in early game, but mid game now we're getting a lot of advantages. So it's interesting, definitely. But I'm here for this experience. You know, it's everything that happens makes me a better player. I'm very happy with having Duffman on the team. His ideas, his values to the game. I think it elevated our gameplay a little bit.
Like, I sometimes do talk to Korean players and how they see the game and like the whole idea of the ebb and flow of the map, like, not just treating wave as the wave itself, but looking at how it plays into the whole map and like little tempos within the lane, but big tempos, how they all weave in. And it's always like really fascinating to hear their concepts on like, how they see the game. And like from how you're describing, it almost feels like G2 is okay. So this is how the Asian games are seeing the game. Like you're seeing the game and treating the lane phase to build up to like this particular like the macro phase. And G2 is almost trying to paint a new picture from scratch, from the blank page. And this is like a growing pain, perhaps. Have I understood it correctly?
Exactly. Like a very good example is last year at Worlds when we played Genji. They are not a very bloody team, you know, but when it comes to being at the correct place, pushing the correct waves, they're very good at that. At least when we played against them. I might be wrong, I didn't watch all the games. But for me, if they are getting ahead and they are pushing lanes, it's hard. It feels like you're getting choked, you know. So that's something that I think is much more impressive than playing an enemy 1v1, which is quite funny from coming as a very young carry player, right? Like nowadays, I'm a bit older, 24 years old,
Oh, shut
now
up.
thinking more about the map and the waves. Um, but I think it's a very very strong tool that I think we utilize so far the best in Europe. Obviously, we are second place right now, which we didn't want to be. We wanted to be first place still today. Um, but we'll just have to be better, you know. Yeah, yeah. I agree with the points you gave about like the map and like it's like an ebb and flow. They have
Yeah.
their timings, we have our timings. You need to respect their timings, and we need to play aggressive on our timings. The waves. I think it's very beautiful. It sounds boring, but once you play really good League of Legends and someone sees it, it's like art, you know. And I want to create that. Um, and we want to create that. I think that's the way we want to look at it. And we want obviously focusing a lot on mid game. It obviously gives you less time to focus on early game, and we want to stabilize that. You know, like we want to make it that we're good in early game, let's be good in mid game. Because last year we had a discussion where we are very good at early game and we are very very good at late game clutches. If you remember, when we were playing Worlds against it was Weibo Gaming where we had a really big late game clutch. It
Oh,
was a
yeah,
40
that was
minute banger,
painful.
and
Yeah.
also against DK, it was a very very late game scenario. And this year coming in, we were like, okay, mid game, let's focus on mid game. You know, so
Hmm.
yeah.
People might be slightly concerned hearing this because, of course, it sounds great that G2 is trying to innovate themselves, like, trying to like perceive the game differently. But I specifically remember back in 2021 where G2 tried like a different approach in preparation for international tournaments and did not even make worlds. So, like, it's good that G2 is like looking at things long term and like building towards it. But is there like, what if people get scared that, okay, so G2 is like taking such a long way around that maybe we should be concerned about like them not winning winter or them not making it to worlds, or
I don't even necessarily think we are taking a long way around. I mean, we're definitely focusing on something that we didn't focus on before, right? But I think in the long term, it's going to be very rewarding. I'm quite sure about that. I also think, I mean, we're not in a bad position, right? Like we are second, tied second. Um, and looking obviously to do better, right? And next week we're going to play against the teams that are in a similar position as us. There are about two teams that are 4-2, same score as us. So as long as we beat them, we are in a very very good spot. BDS needs to lose one game, and we're already tied again. So I'm very optimistic about the future. And about the near future and the later future, because I think the way we practice makes a lot more sense now. Last year we were winning a lot as well, um, but there was a little bit less you can take from that. Um, this year we are more learning like the game itself, which is quite interesting. I think a lot of games we played last year, especially in practice, were really really heavy stomp games in early game if you won those games, because our bot lane was doing really really well with their picks, and we got a lot of advantages through that last year. And this year it's more about how do we play the game, and then the game also just changed, right? There's a new map, the national change, the games go longer. So you need to be able to play those games. I think the average game time probably went up a little bit, at least in solo queue. So I assume it's probably in pro play as well. I didn't check, but I'm sure if I checked, it should be at least a little bit longer. And yeah, I'm just very excited to just get back practicing, to not showcase performances like we did today, which I'm sure we will not showcase anymore.
This is my final question. So, yeah, unfortunate week two, but very, very confident that G2 will bounce back as G2 always does, like, especially in this time of the year. Okay, here is G2. Have looked super dominant, especially in the early game back in 2023. Kind of like, trying to have a new perspective on the game going into 2024 with that grand scheme of trying to be competitive even against the Asian team when it comes to international tournaments, using the experience of previous international tournaments as a lesson. So, what is the end goal for G2?
Um, I mean, it's obviously to be the best, right?
Okay,
I will give you the answer, like the same answer every single year.
mm-hmm.
It's to be the best team in the world.
That's
If
great.
I don't have this answer, I think it's time for me to let go, and I have to strive to still, be the best team in the world, and I want that. Um, there's a lot, obviously, so many fans do not believe that any EU team can beat an Asian team, and that is fine. I'm not them, right? I am myself. We are ourselves in our team. We have our own goals. We want to be the best, and we have to do everything in our hands, in our power to, win. And the luck is also part of that. So we might have to get lucky a little bit, but in the end, we just want to be the best, right? And that's why performances like today are actually very important to reflect on, and just do better next time. It's. I saw a funny, or not funny quote the other day. It said, it's fine if you make a mistake once, but if you make a mistake twice, it's a decision. Which was quite interesting, because it made sense to me. Um, so yeah, I got a little bit poetic right now, but I really like those kind of things. They kind of also just show me a path on like how I view practice, and like stuff like that. And this year, I've really been trying to be very strict with what I'm doing, what I'm eating. Um, I'm doing a challenge right now, and no sweets or candy challenge for me, and it's been working. I've been losing a lot of weight, um, and a really big topic for me is discipline this year. I want to be very disciplined in what I do, what I eat, how I work, how much I practice, how much free time I have. Um, so very excited for what the year has to show me and what I have to show the year and my team, obviously.
You really want to win Wales, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's every player's dream.
Yeah.
I mean, if you ask Faker, he would probably also say he wants to win Worlds again, even though he won so many times. So it's the best thing you can achieve in League of Legends. And that's what every player desires and should desire, in my opinion.